So, I just saw Godzilla Vs Kong. It was so dumb, but that's okay. Now, before I go on, I'm not saying this as a negative to the film. I actually think this is the big positive to the film, because I absolutely love and enjoy this film. Now, let's have a brief synopsis. Oh, and there will be spoilers, but they'll be at the end, and I will let you know when I will be getting to them. So the plot is simple. Godzilla is attacking random places, and Kong is on a journey of self-discovery. Now, what makes this movie work is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. It actually feels like a kaiju film I watched when I was a kid on the Sci-Fi Channel. I think the biggest problem with all these movies before this in this cinematic universe is that it took itself so goddamn serious. Like, do not get me wrong, all those films are filmed nice and whatnot, but I feel like the story itself was trying to be too deep, as this Godzilla being this allegory of natural disaster, but also being peaceful. Which some would argue when Godzilla was created, yeah, he was an allegory to the bombings in Hiroshima and the nuclear testings. And looking at interviews with writers and directors of the recent films, they were inspired by things like Akira for Godzilla 2014 and Neon Genesis Evangelion for Kong Skull Island for how they wanted to view these monsters. And rereading and watching those films, I don't think they understood the concepts they were trying to portray, and they came off sounding pretentious after making a couple of so-so kaiju movie films. And even before that, not many people really thought about Godzilla being this allegory to nuclear war anymore. If you were my age, when we were kids, we had a Godzilla animated series, which was far better than the actual shitty Roland Emmerich movie it was based on. And also, Sci-Fi used to play a bunch of Godzilla marathon movies, and they were goofy and over the top. Like, he even played basketball against Charles Barkley in a comic book, and had a Snickers commercial that came around the same time of the 2014 movie that had him being goofy. So, in the pop culture spirit, Godzilla has always been kind of like weird. Even Japan, with the exception of the recent Shin Godzilla and the Godzilla Netflix trilogy, played him off really goofy after his initial release. You can tell they're really trying to make this into a big budget B movie. You can tell this film is influenced heavily by the original Japanese film King Kong vs. Godzilla because of how weird and outlandish it gets. Sure, Kong in this one doesn't have lightning powers, but he does have a fuck-all battle axe of the dead enemies. Like, everything about this film goes over the top and it's so extra. Like, Godzilla is kind of just a dick in this, so let me explain. The last two Godzilla films tries to get us to believe that Godzilla is this bringer of peace and trying to change the world for the better. Here it's a 5-year time skip, and it's more like they just left him the fuck alone and he just didn't start shit. But for some reason, he just hates King Kong because they're both quote-unquote alpha titans. King Kong isn't doing anything but just chilling on his prison island planet, but when Godzilla senses him out and about on a boat, he just goes and starts shit. Like, King Kong was just waking up from being drugged by some assholes who took him away, and then all of a sudden a giant nuclear lizard is up in his face yelling at him. This keeps going on as Kong and Godzilla clash throughout this film. Compared to the other movies, it feels like this movie has the most monster action fights. If you remember the 2018 movie classic Rampage starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you remember that the last 30 minutes was an all-out monster brawl where The Rock teams up with his pet gorilla to fight a mutated alligator creature. Picture that, but every 20 minutes. Whether it be Kong versus some weird snake Quetzalcoatl monsters, or Godzilla versus Kong themselves. Side note, there's a lot of giant monster deaths. They don't shy away from it being hyper violent and bloody and ripping monsters apart, as well as showing like spines and stuff, which is really surprising. Plus, oh my god, you can actually see these fights! I need to explain this. Compared to the fights in King of the Monsters and Godzilla 2014, which are shrouded in darkness, most of these fights are in broad daylight, besides the part of King Kong and Godzilla's fight that was shot at night. But still, they were in Hong Kong, which is very bright and colorful. Another aspect I do enjoy is that the end of this movie where there's a definitive winner, which actually I really like about this, to be honest. Like, this film feels like the only actual versus movie franchise that does this kind of thing, has a definitive dominant winner. The thing that I thought was interesting that kind of made you keep guessing which one will win is because of the marketing for this movie. So when you watch the American marketing, the trailers and teasers are heavily showing off Kong, but when you watch Japanese promotions, they're heavily centered around Godzilla, kind of giving you this East versus West, which big monster is going to win kind of thing. But like, you kind of like maybe guess it when you see opposable thumbs versus nuclear breath. So the next thing I want to talk about is the human plots in this film. There was a tweet going around when the trailer first came out of Kevin Smith just saying he would pay extra money just for a 2-hour kaiju fight. And I think that's kind of a dumb opinion. I feel you need the human aspect in any Godzilla film because it helps move the plot along, because they shouldn't be the center of attention. I think that was the problem with the other Monsterverse movies in this series. The human aspect was the main part instead of using the humans just to push the story of the monsters. In Godzilla vs Kong, the humans push the story. But the human part is weird because there are two parts that don't ever really converge. So we're following two different stories. One group of humans is following Kong, and the other is following Godzilla's story. I put the second one very loosely. I will talk about the human part in Kong first, and then I will talk about the other humans when I get into the spoilers. The heroes following Kong are just following him on his hero's journey. They take Kong back to his homeland in the center of the earth, and that is where he finds his Excalibur with the battle axe. The humans are also trying to find a weird source of energy, but on Kong's journey, he's accompanied by a deaf girl who teaches Kong how to sign. The actress who plays her, Kayla Hoddle, is actually deaf and is, to me, one of the best parts of these films, because she has to act with her expressions and you can really feel it. In general, the dynamic between her and Kong is just so heartfelt and adorable. There are no spoken words between them, but they're speaking through sign and body language. For real, Kong is very expressive in this movie without actually saying anything, but they still have a general connection with one another. Kong in media has always had a female companion, but they've always been played as the beauty to his beast. But this dynamic is more of a found family. They relate to each other because they're the last of each other's kind. She's the last of her tribal people, and he's the last of the great apes. It's fascinating though. The title puts Godzilla's name up in front, but you spend the majority of the film really with Kong. It is his story. He is the main protagonist. Now, I need to say we're about to go into spoilers for this last part because there's stuff in the plot I need to talk about. So spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So, Millie Bobby Brown returns from her last appearance from King of the Monsters, advocating that Godzilla is being provoked for all of these attacks. So she teams up with her friend and a weird fringe conspiracy theorist, and they end up being caught in an actual conspiracy theory that a mega corporation known as Apex, who is actually the ones provoking Godzilla to attack Florida and Hong Kong because they recreated the alpha signal from the King of the Monsters and is using it to provoke Godzilla to fight them. Okay, so my problem with the story is it's just really how it's framed. For this, the human story, it's the right time and the right place kind of writing. I also have conflicting opinions on one of the main characters being a conspiracy theorist that is proven right about stuff when you were introduced to him by being told he washes himself with bleach to remove government tracking devices. But Millie Bobby Brown thinks he's a good source even though he is running a borderline Alex Jones style QAnon sounding podcast. But then I took a step back and realized I'm watching a movie about a lizard fighting a monkey with a battle axe. Alright, but their story leads me to my favorite part of this film, Mecha Godzilla. Holy shit, Mecha Godzilla's plotline is so goddamn dumb and outlandish, but in such a good way. Oh my god. Okay, so Mecha Godzilla was built by using parts from King Ghidorah after he was killed in King of the Monsters. It is then revealed he used some kind of telepathic link to control his 3 heads, and they're using this to link with the skull pieces. So they use this psychic link and have Gintama linked to Godzilla to control him. But unfortunately, it isn't fully operational until the other humans reach the Hollow Earth and they get a much stronger power source, but it fucking malfunctions the computer because it can't handle the Hollow Earth new energy source and allows the soul or something of King Ghidorah to take over Mecha Godzilla, killing the psychic pilot, and Mecha Godzilla Ghost Ghidorah thing then fights Kong and Godzilla in an epic 12-minute fight that had me at the climax of the fight screaming, "Oh my god, fuck yeah." Now, like I said before, I weirdly fanboyed right there. The reasoning for this is really fucking dumb, but this is actually an amalgamation of all the Mecha Godzilla lore that appeared in the Japanese Godzilla films. So again, when you don't take yourself too seriously and have fun with it, you can make an entertaining film. I love this movie a lot. Like, it has major plot holes that if you think about it too much, you go, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. And I wish that that final fight was in Tokyo instead of Hong Kong, because we have seen 2 Godzilla films where the climax is in America. I kind of wish we could have seen him on his home turf for his final battle. To me, this is a 6 out of 10 film. But it is a lot of fun, and to be honest with you, sometimes you have more fun with 6 out of 10 mediocre films than you do 10 out of 10 good art films. And I think it's because of the rewatchability. I've watched this movie 4 times now, and each time was with a different group of friends, and I love just seeing their reactions to the film and them being hyped as I was. I don't know the future of the Monsterverse. From what I've heard, this film is a crossroads, so it sucks that this good film had to come out during a pandemic, while also having to deal with the review bombs from shitty Zack Snyder Cut fans. Like, dude, what the fuck? You got your subpar better retelling of your weird superhero movie. Leave my giant monster film alone. On the positive, I heard it's doing well overseas, so there's that. It gives me hope that if this is the direction the Monsterverse is going to go and they're successful and we get another sequel, I'm all for it.